Leia gets her revenge, Shadow Wing has an unexpected problem to deal with, and Lando pays the bills, all in this week's Star Wars comics. Hello everybody, my name is Starrapter, and welcome to the channel. Every week I break down the latest in Star Wars that can include the comics, novels, TV series, and more. So this week I first off want to start by talking about Star Wars number 66. This is part 5 of the Scourging of Shu-Torun arc. This is the penultimate issue for that arc, the second to last issue for writer Kieran Gillen. So we are at an absolute climax in this part of the story. We have all the rebels are in their places. We have Leia, Han, and the others that are in this throne room, so to speak. And we have Trios, Queen Trios, who has to get in there to shut everything down to save her planet. Meanwhile, we have Luke and Benthic at a kind of standstill on what they want to do with the planet. Luke wants to save it. Benthic wants to destroy it. So this episode, or I say episode, but this issue has the big duel we've been waiting for between Leia and Queen Trios. And, well, Leia manages to kill Queen Trios. And in the meantime, we have Luke and Benthic, who are basically trying to do something completely different, each one of them. And it ends off in a standstill where R2 has to pick a choice between saving Luke or basically going along with Benthic. And, well, that's where this issue stands still at that point. So breaking things down, we have the bombardment, which I really enjoyed the spectacle of. You have this Commander Kanchar who disagrees with Queen Trios. He doesn't care that Queen Trios is in danger. She is in the same place that he's commencing this bombardment. There is a shield generator, so that is blocking the blast, but I did like that visual of, like, throughout this issue, this ongoing threat of the orbital bombardment that kind of like adds to the urgency. It's just a really cool spectacle flair from the artwork, and Angel Unzueta does a great job with, you know, really focusing on these characters' expressions, making them look lifelike for sure. I like the whole fight between Leia and Trios. I thought that was great, especially seeing Leia actually use a melee weapon. We know that she trained quite often with a staff on Alderaan with her father, thanks to some glances in the comics over the years. So we like to see, it's nice to see her actually fight with a melee weapon, actually overcoming her enemy. And finally, I like this whole idea of Luke and the suspense that it was building up, where he's cornered by Benthic. Benthic has him at gunpoint, and it's up to R2 to save the day, which R2 always saves the day in Star Wars, so it's nice to see that kind of happening. But things are not looking great because they are overloading the generators, and that's going to basically destroy the planet from the inside out. Going back to Trios, I do want to mention I like that exchange between her and Leia at the end. So Leia is having words with Trios, and Trios says, "I just want to save my planet. That's all I care about in the end." And you kind of feel it. I mean, she's a person that double-crossed the Rebels, and this is huge. This is a huge event in Star Wars comics because Queen Trios first appeared in the Darth Vader annual and since carried through the Darth Vader comics and then melded into the Star Wars comics. So to see a character that was built up through the comics and meet her end in the comics, because this is right before Empire, definitely a big deal for sure. She's a character that will be missed because she did add a lot of nuance to things in this time period for sure. Moving over to another Age of Rebellion issue. This is Age of Rebellion, Lando Calrissian, issue number 1. The title for this specific story is Cloud City Blues. In this comic, we have Lando Calrissian. He is dealing with trying to stay afloat as the Baron Administrator of Cloud City. So it goes into all the little nitty-gritty details of how he is trying to stay ahead of the curve, how he's trying to pay his employees, and basically just keep Cloud City floating. And, well, he's in a tough bind, and all of a sudden he has this opportunity that kind of presents itself at his at his feet, and he ends up taking it and is promised a lot of money for doing a certain job of just simply getting this person and bringing it back to their uncle in exchange for lots of credits. But when he does that very easy job, he finds out that this certain organization on this planet is actually harboring slaves and treating them very badly on this planet. So he says, you know what? We got to free these guys. And, well, when he did that, they did not pay him the money, obviously, and he went his own ways. And that is basically the moral of the story, is Lando has morals. So getting into this story is, first off, just seeing how Lando manages his operations of Cloud City. I mean, this guy's a smuggler. He's a swindler. I mean, we see him in the Lando comics by Charles Soule. We see him in the events of Solo: A Star Wars Story, and even in the prequel events of the Lando story as well in that miniseries. So we see him in the area before Bespin. So it's nice to actually have a laser-focused comic that actually exposes what is going on, especially with the relationship between Lobot and Lando. Lobot is always there, spitting out the percentages, spitting out what he has to do to accomplish this. He might have to take money from this guy, funnel into this thing. He even has to gamble a little bit in hopes of getting money, stuff like that. I do like the reference to Burning Khan. This is a planet that was introduced, I believe, in the Star Wars Uprising RPG game for the mobile devices, which since has been canceled. So, yeah, seeing kind of crossover brought in that way. But overall, this was an enjoyable story. It was nice seeing that glimpse into Lando's life when he's not, running around saving a rebellion and all that sort of thing. And finally, moving on, we have TIE Fighter issue number 2. So if you remember, this is a crossover title between Del Rey's upcoming novel Alphabet Squadron arriving in June. So in this issue, we follow this group of hotshot elite pilots called Squadron 5, aka Shadow Wing. And in the last issue, we picked up where they came across this Imperial Star Destroyer that they were trying to repair. They got a distress signal. As soon as they get near the Star Destroyer, it fired an ion blast onto their cruiser there. And that's where we left off in this issue. We pick up right at that spot. We see that Star Destroyer unleashing swarms of TIE fighters onto their freighter. And it's not looking good. It's not looking good. But the pilot of this, or the captain of this particular ship that they are escorting for maintenance, says that he is basically trying to get out of there and hyperspace, and that ship gets destroyed. So basically what happens is Shadow Wing does end up surrendering to these TIE fighters, these Imperials, and he finds out that they are Imperials because it seems like, oh, maybe these guys are just rebels using TIE fighter ships. Why are they firing at us? We're on the same side. We learn pretty quickly that these guys are still considering themselves Imperials, but they do not agree with the overarching leadership in the Empire right now. The Empire right now is too concerned with just fighting tooth and nail with the rebels, lots of losses going on. This group, this remnant, or whatever you want to call them, these extremists of the Imperials are led by this admiral. And, well, he says, I want a peace of mind. I'll take this Imperial mining facility and make money off of that and have my little fringe of these Imperials there. So I found that super interesting about we're getting this kind of preemptive split of the Imperials. We know that happens after the Battle of Endor. They go a lot of their separate ways, as seen in Aftermath. So it was really neat seeing that already we're seeing these pockets of Imperials just going their own separate ways. So anyway, they do get to this place, and their commander, or the Shadow Wing's commander, says, you know what, maybe this is a good idea. So they are put into a containment center, and, well, we have one of the people in this Shadow Wing, I think her name is Gila, she actually breaks herself out and gets the rest of them out of there, and now they are on the run. So we're going to see where that leaves off, but yeah, this overall story really surprised me. The beginning had lots of tension with the TIE fighters just flying around, evasive maneuvers. I did like to see the artwork, especially when they portrayed or depicted the pilots actually not having an outline of their helmet so you could see their facial expressions. I thought that was a really great way of just showing, like, these Imperials are just not robots, right? They're actually everyday humans, and that's what a lot of these stories have been doing between this story and Imperial Cadet, which is my next point I want to make. I love the synergy between Imperial Cadet Han Solo and this particular series, because you have this character of Leighton and his brother, now Tanu. Remember in the Han Solo Imperial Cadet, he went off to do his stuff for being a medic on a medical frigate. Now, in this little piece of epilogue, one-shot story at the end of this, you have Tamu, Leighton contacting Tamu, and Tamu has the same wife that he had actually gotten married to in the Imperial Cadet issue, and we find out that he has a family. So I do like these little vignettes at the end of every issue. It seems like they have a laser focused little couple page story about each one of the 5 characters in Shadow Wing. So we're really getting a laser focused idea of okay, who these characters are, what makes them tick. It just adds to their specific character development, and I'm sure this is going to add to a little bit more flavor when I read Alphabet Squadron coming out in a couple weeks, where I'm going to be like, oh, I actually have some investment in these Imperial characters. Like, this is going to be different because, you know, I actually might care about this Shadow Wing and how they're going up against Alphabet Squadron. So yeah, so far, TIE Fighter is a really great, solid run of comics, and I can't wait for more. Moving over to my question of the week. This comes to me on Twitter from James M, the Crazy Gamer Historian 1999 at Robin McCormick. He asks, hashtag Star Wars Weekly, would it be incredible if there were still other Jedi survivors of Order 66 hidden somewhere in the galaxy after Return of the Jedi who could somehow help fight the First Order 50 years after the Clone Wars? Wow. That is pretty awesome, because I have actually been thinking about that a lot lately, especially with Charles Soule's run of Darth Vader. We know that takes place after Order 66, and he has a list of actually the members of the Jedi that have somehow left and haven't been killed yet. So we know one of them is Quinlan Vos, right? Maybe Cal Kestis from the upcoming Star Wars Jedi Fallen action-adventure game. Maybe he's one of them as well. That would make him pretty old. But especially Quinlan Vos, he'd be really, really old at that point. So it's just a matter of like age. So I know Quinlan Vos is not exactly a human. He's a near human. So maybe his species live a little bit longer, stay a little bit more youthful in appearance as they get older. We shall see if that's even going to happen. But I do like that idea of like Jedi being on the fringe. I mean, the galaxy's a huge place, and as we see with more material coming out of the canon between Kanan Jarrus and now Cal Kestis, we have a lot of Jedi that have kind of slipped through the cracks. Even though Order 66 was very, very effective, it might have killed off 98% of the Jedi, but there's still 2% or whatever out there. We see, again, in Vader comics, we have Jocasta Nu that survived, got killed. We have Ethan Peel, or whatever his name was, the one Zabrak guy. He survives and he got killed. So there's great examples of people surviving, but they have to completely cut themselves off from the Force. So yeah, my two characters that I would like to see, Cal Kestis and Quinlan Vos. So if you guys want to get your questions answered on my weekly videos, simply hashtag Star Wars Weekly. You can either comment the questions down in this video below, or you can tweet me on Twitter at Starrapter. So next week, we can look forward to Galaxy's Edge issue number 2, as well as Age of Rebellion, Jabba the Hutt issue number 1. So what did you guys think about this week's releases? Let's talk about them all in the comment section below. If you guys are new to the channel, I talk about Star Wars pretty much every single week. So if you liked my explanations and my input in Star Wars, you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell icon for notifications when videos go up in the future. That is going to do it for me, Starrapter. Thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you always. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also include 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me, and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Starrapter.